One of the matches ended with first blood and riotous cheering. In the aftermath, Delvarus stepped into the circle, carrying his meteor hammer, already whirling the deactivated Morning Star in readiness. Delvarus was roaring into the crowd, baying at them, building their cheers for the fight to come. Delvarus was unhelmed and unarmored for the pit fight. His dark skin marked his genesis in the jungles of whatever planet he'd once called home, and he bared iron teeth at his kindred, demanding one of them step forwards and face him. "First blood," Delvarus growled at his brother. For years, but for the rarest bouts, first blood was almost all they ever asked of him.
Welcome to the Objectives of Your Podcast. My name's Mike.
Hi, I'm Emma.
This is episode 59, First Blood. Now, I actually had to go back and check to make sure we hadn't actually titled an episode First Blood before.
And we haven't?
We haven't, as far as I can see.
So this is our fifth First Blood, and we've never done a podcast called First Blood.
Well, we've done an episode which used the opener I had planned for this episode, so I had to go and find a new one. Way back in episode 4.
Okay, we didn't do that.
No, that was actually a solo of mine, so I don't see the harm in doubling up this time, because we are talking about a 2020 event, and that one from 2017 probably isn't as relevant as it might need to be. So
it's a different edition of the game. But other than that,
so we're going to talk First Blood, which is our first event for our annual calendar.
Yeah.
It's actually been since 2016. So this is our 5th year running it.
I just said that already.
I know.
Okay.
And we're going to have a quick look at some of the army lists that have been submitted. We have 82 players coming. And we're going to talk about some of the patrons lists, some of the cool things that we've seen come through, and have a look at the format and some of the changes for 2020 and what some of that might mean.
I actually thought that First Blood was next weekend. So
no, it's like,
just realised that it's in 3 days' time.
Yep. It's very, very rapidly approaching. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, tomorrow's terrain day for me.
Good, because I'm going to the beach tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
You have fun building terrain by yourself.
Well, we can both do it. We'll do the beach. Anyway. Before we do, though, we've got a couple of things to cover in news and contact from listeners and current affairs, and nothing too heavy, though, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to start off with an email I got from a listener called Matt Brown. Now, Matt reached out about a week ago now. Was it? No, it was only a couple of days ago. I'll get this right. It's fine.
Well, it depends when people listen to it.
Well, that is true.
If you could listen to it in a week's time, then Mike will be correct. And he did reach out about a week ago.
Anyway, so he wrote and said he's a voiceover artist and writer, and he's just started his own YouTube channel. And he used to listen to me when I was on Wads and Radio. And he's basically reached out and said, hey, I'm still interested in listening. Really love what you guys are doing. He's just launched his YouTube channel. I'm going to read a part of his email here. He's creating original narrative content, scenario content for RPGs and tabletop wargames, and several humor-based pieces. Launched the channel on January 1st with a full 75 videos uploaded and ready to be viewed on day one. Now, if you head to YouTube, the channel title is Matthew Eric Brown, Matthew, Eric, E-R-I-C, Brown, B-R-O-W-N. There will be a link in the show notes for you to go and click on it as well. And true to his word, I've jumped on and had a quick look, and there are a boatload of videos. So there's 40K, a 401k wireless, 1,000 blessings, adventure scenarios, battle scenarios. There's a whole bunch of different stuff you can go and view. There's, probably a couple of hours of content there. Most of the clips are between 3 and 8 minutes long. There's a couple that break out over into the 15, 16-minute mark. but there's plenty of content there. So fellow hobbyist in the community, if you want to go and check it out, Matthew Eric Brown is what you search for on YouTube, but there is a link in the show notes if you want to go and check out his channel. He's only got a couple of subscribers at the moment because he has only soft launched it. So if you want to head over there and give him a subscribe, that'd be awesome for him. So really cool chatting to him. He was sending me stuff that I'd said back in some of the early episodes of World's End Radio. And it took, as soon as he said it, I remembered it. But yeah, it's amazing some of the stuff that people listen to and remember from some of the old podcasts. So that was quite cool for me to have a chat to him.
See, I find that really quite scary. So we sit here and we record it, but
think that someone's actually listening to it?
Yeah, that bothers me. And
he's in LA, from what I understand.
See, that bothers me even more.
Why?
Because I don't know those people.
But anyway, it was lovely to have Matt reach out and say hello. And you may even be hearing him. We've been chatting about organising some bumpers and stuff to go, not only in our podcast, but in others. So you may hear him on some of the other podcasts going forward. But yeah, head to his YouTube channel and say hello and subscribe. Thanks, Matt. We're going to move on, though, because we, in the last episode, in episode 58, we asked for people to reach out and tell us about international and interstate events that might be cool to go and visit. And we had another message from another listener, which, again, came from an unusual part of the world. I think
it's not unusual. It's just not Western Australia.
Well, and that's kind of what I mean, is that we're used to mostly locals and other Aussies listening to this. So it's always cool to get contact from other parts of the world.
Yeah. So Keith wrote and said, just finished listening to your latest podcast. I'm going to be going to my first ever GT in Prague at the end of February, the Prague GT Open, which I feel really bad because I did say that was one of the events I didn't want to go to.
Well, you said you didn't want to go to Prague.
Yeah, true. He lives in Switzerland and is from Scotland originally.
So yeah, he's given us a link that we'll share in the show notes, so you can go and check out the event itself.
Which is gamemat.eu.
Yeah, so it's hosted by them. It was funny because during the conversation I said, that's awesome, what are you taking? And his response was Space Wolves. So, which he sent us a little list of, and the deadline's not till February, so he's still tweaking it. But it was really cool for Keith to send this through. For those listening at home, it's from what I can gather, it's 2,000 points. It's Beyond the Fell-Handed, the Dreadnought with Assault Cannon, Heavy Flamer, Primaris Battle Leader, 4 units of 5 Intercessors with just the standard pattern bolt rifles, 3 Aggressors with all the bolters, 2 units of Wolfen, which are, I think they're 3 Thunderhammer Storm Shield, and then Frostclaws on the remainder, 2 Thunderwolf Cavalry packs, which again are pretty stock except for the Storm Shields they all tote around, and then a Primaris Rune Priest, Primaris Wolf Priest, Eliminators, Hellblasters, and Hellblasters, again with the Plasma Incinerator standard guns. He's still tweaking it. I actually don't mind this list. It's quite an interesting... It's good to see Space Wolves on the table for starters. So it's a Vanguard, a Battalion, and a Spearhead.
Didn't he send you a more up-to-date version?
Yeah, that's because I asked him, hey, why haven't you broken these units over into a Vanguard? It makes no sense the way you've done it. And he said, oh, that's a good idea. So the list doesn't change necessarily. It's just that the format does.
Right.
So yeah, he's got a nice big assault element with Wolfen, double unit of Wolfen, double unit of Thundercav, and then a decent gun line with the Eliminators, the Hellblasters, and Intercessors along with the Aggressors. The Aggressors are probably the thing that sticks out the most for me because there's only 3 of them. I'd be really interested to see what the final list submission is for him, and hopefully when he hears this, he can get back in touch and let us know whether they're streaming any of the games or whether they're being shared anywhere or where the army lists are being uploaded, whether they're going into Tawny Keeper or down into pairings or West Coast pairings. There's a few different ways that Europeans do stuff. So, but regardless of what army he ends up taking, we wish him all the best. It's always awesome to hear from listeners around the world. So, yeah, thanks very much for getting in touch, Keith, and we really look forward to seeing how you go. My biggest concern for you is there's not enough guns to deal with things like the Iron Hands, Imperial Fists Castle, things like the triple Thunderfire, triple Whirlwind.
So what would that army do well against?
I keep looking at it,
Like,
thinking,
what are the strengths of it? Why do you think someone would choose this as an army?
I think
other than it's cool.
I was going to say, I think it's a cool army first and foremost. The Double Wolfen and Thundercav create an interesting situation where they're going to be really, really aggressive, and then you've got the intercessors that are going to be able to hold objectives, and the eliminators are there for dealing with characters. The Hellblasters provide the extra firepower the army needs at mid-range. It's going to live and die by those Wolfen and Thundercav. Because if they make combat in any sort of volume, they're going to do really well. The problem is that depending on what the terrain's like and what rules are being used for the terrain, they may not make combat. And if that assault element doesn't make combat turn 2, then as soon as you start putting in against any sort of vehicle-heavy army or flyer-heavy army, it's going to be really poor, because all it's going to take is 3 Eldar flyers are going to be a really difficult task to deal with, because the Thundercav can't charge them, the Wolfen can't charge them. There's a few bolters and plasma and the eliminators there, but there's not a huge amount of guns for dealing with armor. So yeah, I think it's definitely more of a fun list than super competitive. I'm hoping that the Space Wolves get a boost with one of the latest Psychic Awakening books, but I applaud him for taking it. I think it's great to see Space Wolves on the table, and not just Space Wolves, but a pure Space Wolves army, because it would have been easy for him to soup this, or throw an Inquisitor in, or throw an Assassin in, or any of those other weird things, because the updates for the Space Wolves are a bit thin on the ground at the moment. But, more power to him for taking it, and all he needs to do is win half his games, and he's probably proving half of the room wrong that Space Wolves are rubbish. So, yeah. It's I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with the list and how he goes. So hopefully we can get some information from him after the event, and we'll share how he went.
Cool. And when is the actual event?
He says it's he says the lists aren't due until
mid-Feb.
At the end of Feb.
Oh,
sorry, end of Feb is when the event actually is.
Okay, right.
So I'm just going to very quickly see if I can find the full details, because like we said, the Gamer EU website is where the tickets are sold for. So the Warhammer 40k singles GT 2020 is actually sold out with 100 for 100 players. The event's the 22nd and 23rd of February. It's listed as an ITC event, so I'm assuming it'll be in Best Coast pairings to go and find. It's not 100% certain here, but again, we'll make sure the link's in the show notes. Oh, no, here we go. Prague, Czech Republic, 2,000 points, 3 detachments. Tournament is ITC missions and scoring with a slight modification. So, it doesn't say how many games. I'm assuming it's 2.
They're actually running a team event over the same weekend.
I'm assuming it's going to be at least 5 games. It's hard to say for certain. Yeah, the team event is big. 30 teams, 150 players. So the teams of 5. Which means they pip first. They pip WATC. So we so we have to try and get.
Come on, Australia, step up.
We have to try and get some extra numbers for WATC for 2020. But that's really exciting as well, because they are selling these events out. Like the 40k team tournament is sold out. The singles tournament is sold out. The Age of Sigmar GT is sold out. That's 50 out of 50. The Underworlds is sold out at 40 out of a 40. So you can only at the moment buy tickets for Kill Team or Blood Bowl. So it's pretty exciting. They're going to have, 350 plus players in that room for that weekend, which is pretty huge. So if we find out more information, we'll let you guys know. But in the meantime, you can check out the show notes and follow the links, and check out what's going on with the Prague Open GT for 2020.
Cool.
Last couple of little bits of news. We're going to jump to Age of Sigmar now. We had Battlemaster for AOS happen on the 10th and the 11th, or the 11th and the 12th? 11th and 12th. 11th and 12th. Here in Western Australia, with 39 players, including a ringer.
39 including a ringer.
Yeah, from what I
It's a bit
understand,
odd.
well, no, they had someone drop out through the weekend,
Okay,
so they had
right.
to add a ringer to round it back out, which is why there's 39. So technically 38 players. We had Tim Melrose take out first place with his Fire Slayers, which are the, for those older Warhammer Fantasy gamers, they're the old Troll Slayers upgraded and now burning. Hearthguard, Berserkers, Volkite and Hearthguard, respectively. An Auric Fire Smiter, Battlesmith, Rune Master, and a Rune Father on Magmadroth. So, and a Lords of the Lodge battalion. So, yeah, lots of big monsters and cool naked dwarves with big burny axes and flaming red hair. No artillery was interesting, only one behemoth. Yeah, it was 170 wounds in total, which is quite scary. So, well done, Tim.
Congratulations.
Alex Fillet taking out second place and Matthew Smith taking out third place.
Well done.
So, yeah, congrats, guys. There was actually a fourth place, I should mention, Jason Robinson Kinson. So, second, third, and fourth were all tied on round points and counted back on battle points. We left Jason in fourth, but then you had to then count back a third time for second and third who were tied on battle points as well.
Wow. So what did that count back on?
Strength of schedule. From what I can gather here. But the difference between first and second was only like 3 points.
Wow.
So really, really
Tight
close
game.
vote at the end there. Yeah. So well done to those guys. Still on the Age of Sigmar train. If you're interested in any mobile games, Realm War has just had a 2.0 release, which is, it's kind of like a tower defense game.
Mobile games.
Yeah, so it's on Warhammer Community at the moment. It's called Realm War. If you've played Clash Royale or any of those sorts of games...
okay, right. I thought you meant mobile as in you can move it around. I was
No.
Age of Sigmar's not exactly... like. I'm sure you can put that in a carry case and move it around.
No, well,
you.
with Games Workshop's licensing these days, they've started reaching out into... They've been doing mobile games for years, but this is probably the newest and fanciest looking mobile game they've done.
Right.
And we're going to get TV shows and movies very shortly as well, so that's going to be interesting to chat about. I didn't mean to start playing Realm War, and then the graphics grabbed me and I went, oh, these are really cool. And I don't mind the Clash Royale style tower defense type thing, so if you're interested in checking that out, it's a free app to play. I haven't spent a cent on it, and
so far.
I won't. I'm a tight ass when it comes to these apps.
You are, that's true. You spend all the money on actual real life.
On models.
Gaming models.
Yeah, I wouldn't be allowed to spend on anything else. No. So yeah, go and check out Realm War. If you do start playing, let me know, because you can add friends and create clans and stuff. It might be cool if there's enough people listening to want to generate an Obsec clan. I will. And then some more news and features coming out of Warhammer Community this week as well. Obviously, we have the new Sisters of Battle pre-order happening. It happened on the 11th of January. It's only wave 1 as far as I can tell, because it's not the entire range. So we've got the box set of the Battle Sisters, the Retributors, the Saint Catherine, the Triumph of Saint Catherine, which is the massive kit of sisters carrying around a coffin and with cherubs and everything. And I believe the Exorcist and the Mortifiers and some of the Penitent Engine multi-part kits are also have been previewed. I don't know whether they're in week 1, but we're starting to see those releases sneak in as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few people I've seen complaining about this release, in that the box set of 10 Sisters is $100 here in Australia. I'm a bit conflicted by that, because ironically it's cheaper now to buy these box set of 10 plastic sisters than it was to buy 10 sisters in metal when they discontinued the metal range. So for anyone who is actually looking at a sisters army, this is actually cheaper than the metal. And these are multi-part, and you can, the box set of basic sisters, you can build Retributors, you can build, obviously without necessarily all the heavy weapons, but you can build Dominions, you can build Celestians, you can build the standard Battle Sister range. They give you the Imagifiers and all the other bits and pieces. Weapon options for the Sister Superior. There's cherubs in there. There's a lot of bits on the sprues.
Mm-hmm.
But it's $100 for 10 models, and you're going to need at least 3 boxes you're probably going to have at least 3 boxes of them to bulk out other squads and stuff, because you can get away with, I mean, a battalion's 3 squads of 5, but realistically, you're probably going to run at least 30 sisters. So I don't know it's any more expensive than...
I was just thinking, that doesn't...
It's not any more expensive.
Scare me.
No. It's not any more expensive than any other army, but it's certainly one that I've heard a few people go, oh, you know, they're more expensive than I thought they would be.
Everything.
Yeah. The Retributors are the other interesting one. They're only 5 models and 2 cherubs, but they're only going to be like $20 cheaper here in Australia. I'm not certain on the exact Australian conversion price rate. But they've only given you 2 of each heavy weapon on the sprue when it's a squad of 4 heavy weapons. And you don't get the heavy weapons that you need in the Battle Sisters box to arm them either. So they really want you to buy both boxes.
Yeah.
So that you can run all the heavy bolters and all the heavy flamers and all the multi-melters respectively.
See, stuff like that frustrates me.
Well, the Space Marine Devastator has been doing that for years, where you get 2 las cannons, 2 heavy bolters, 2 missile launchers, 1 plasma gun, 1 multi-melter.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because obviously everyone just swaps with each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of swapping and trading that goes on. And in the past, when you were, you go back far enough in Rogue Trader and Second Ed in particular, you'd buy a box of Devastators and you got a missile launcher, a heavy bolter, a las cannon, and then either a plasma cannon or a multi-melter as the 4 guns. And that was it, because that was a metal box.
Yeah.
So the fact you do get all the extra guns so that you can put them in other squads is cool. But I also get the frustration of going, well, I want to put 4 of this one weapon on this squad, and I can't do that because you've given me 2 of each weapon.
Yeah.
The irony is, though, to get the extra guns into this kit, you'd have 1 more sprue, which would bump the size of the box, which would bump the price of the box, and then you'd be paying $100 for the 5 models. And then people would complain that they've got all these spare bits they can't use.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. I think Games Workshop's way of going, like, we envisage them as mixed squads in the stories. You know, they're not the optimized loadouts. And I think it's easy to get caught up with
optimizing.
Yeah, the tournament mentality of it.
Well, I guess for us it really is, because that's what we spend all of our time organising and doing and focusing on. So, yeah.
The Triumph of St. Catherine, I don't know if you've seen this model. It's a giant, it's almost a knight-sized base, but it's a group of Battle Sisters who are carrying a coffin. And then they've got like a bunch of cherubs above them carrying litanies and all the rest of it, and there's censer bearers, and there's a plate of rose petals, and then, you know, it's a quite elaborate kit. Looks amazing. It is going to be expensive. You're only going to need 1 of them, though. And the biggest complaint I've seen so far is, how do I store it and carry it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't even look like it's going to be a good candidate for magnets without a fair amount of work, because the cherubs are sort of wingtip touching wingtip to lift each other up into the sky, and then that's attached to a banner, or it's attached to a banner pole type stuff. So beautiful model.
Just looks
it's going to be
fragile.
It's going to be awkward to carry around, that's for sure. We also saw the Mortifiers and the Penitent Engines and the Anchorite, which is the squad leader for the Mortifiers, all previewed and given some context and fluff as to why they look like now, which was nice. There's a little nod there to the Archoflagellants. When you go back far enough to, I'm going to say 3rd edition, there was a game called Inquisitor, which was 54mm scale. It was like a role-playing game for 40k, and one of the characters you could play was Damien 1427, who was an Archoflagellant, and they've actually put parts in this box that you can build Damien 1427 in the Archoflagellant set, which I think is a nice nod to those of us who are old enough to remember who that is. The multi-part kits look way better than the snap-fit ones that we got in the sort of the splash release box that they were doing.
Yep.
The multi-part ones look a lot more dynamic. There's a lot more variety to them, so that'll help the variety on the table as well. And it's a box of 10, so you are actually getting the full squad in one go, which is nice. There's Oh, and the other model that is probably worth mentioning is Order of Our Martyred Lady Judith Eruita. I can't even say her surname. Eruita. She's basically a Sister of Battle canoness riding around on a chariot built of flamers, which I really like. Yeah. So the sisters are almost all released. They've previewed the Hospitaller for pre-order as well, and the Exorcist, but we haven't had the Immolator and some of the other little bits and pieces. So there's definitely a couple of weeks worth of releases. So
exciting for those people who are...
Yeah, I mean, they've got special dice now. I don't know why they didn't put the special dice in the box, the splash release box, but there's special dice to buy as well. And they've also previewed the stuff for Psychic Awakening Book 4, which is the Dark Angels, Grey Knights and Thousand Suns. We've seen the rules previews over the last couple of days, and the Dark Angels Chapter Master, Battle Master, with optional parts. He's been previewed as well. And then we've also had the sneak peek of Book 5, which is the Tau, the Greater Good book, which includes the new Shadow Sun model, which they previewed at the open day about a week ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of 40k stuff coming. Yep. Lots of 40k stuff coming. Just doing the maths, I reckon we've got a good 6 books left in Psychic Awakening. We'll probably get to 10 books in total. Assuming they keep sort of doing 2 or 3 factions per book, we should end up with around 10 books, and it'll probably be done. If they keep up the rate they're going, we'll have them all done by about August 2020. Just in time for WATC.
Fantastic.
No doubt it'll be released like a week before.
Yeah, or 3 days before, and we're sitting waiting on tenterhooks. What's going to happen? Are they going to drop it? Is it not going to drop? Yeah.
It wouldn't be an event, like one of our major events if it didn't do that.
We didn't have that happening. Yeah.
So yeah, lots of 40k stuff. Lots of Age of Sigmar stuff still coming. We've got at least one. The Bunbury guys are running down at Beyond Games and Hobby. You've got an Age of Sigmar event at the start of February. Mm-hmm. We're going to have one at the end of February. There's a lot of tournaments happening in Western Australia in the first couple of months. We've got Bolt Action now locked in for February as well, if you're interested. Right.
So we've got a mixed gaming day happening. So 22nd of Feb.
I think that's right. We've got Bolt Action happening that day. Age of Sigmar happening that day. It is the 22nd, as far as I can tell.
I wasn't sure if I just made that up.
So we've got both those game systems. We should have Kill Team that day as well. We're going to try and put together an Underworlds practice round for the Grand Clash, which will happen at Show a couple of months later. Mm-hmm. So, and then on top of that, we've still got our 40k. There's the ATC fundraiser 40k event happening in February, and there's the Toy Soldier Cartel running their 40k event in February. And we also slot CanCon and LVO into that.
Well, they're on the same weekend.
They are, but they're between now and the end of February as well. Yeah. So a few Aussies going to both those events, and we wish them the best of luck, whether you're going to CanCon or LVO. It's going to be a couple of busy months if you're playing 40k or Age of Sigmar. There's a lot happening in the world. Yeah,
and I just wanted to touch on travelling for gaming. We spoke about that in the last episode, and you butchered the pronunciation of the New Zealand.
Yeah, I did. I did quite happily own up to that and say, yeah, that was going to happen. Yeah. So I do think that in general we should try and find out how to pronounce something before we try, rather than coming back and apologising afterwards. The thing is, though, that we're very fortunate to have a number of listeners who are from New Zealand, one of which reached out to us and said, hey, the best... You stuff that up. Yeah, but when you look at the letters in the name, how it's pronounced looks nothing like the letters. It's actually not too bad. It's just the first sound. So, who knew that WH makes a F sound? So instead of Whangarei, which I think is what you said, it's actually, closest approximation we've been sent, as closest approximation, is Whangarei. Yes, I think that sounds right. So people who are from, hopefully I did pronounce that close enough, people are from Whangarei. We apologise for Michael pronouncing it with a wang at the start, because apparently not. And the other thing just that popped up, Down Under Network is going to Art of War Down Under. Yeah, so the Art of War guys are Nick Nanavati and a few of the other professional tabletop players. I don't know what the deal is in that regard. I haven't spoken to Adam or Diffie around what's happening with Down Under Network. I'm assuming there's a partnership been struck up there. But Diffie managed to rename the wrong page.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's I think you have to wait 30 days before you can change it though on Facebook. So he's going to be sat there like it for a little while yet. So
shame.
Anyway, that kind of covers all the news and bits and pieces, and like I say, the listener feedback that we've had. If you have any sort of comments that you want to send through, jump on our Facebook page, and you can message us from the Objective Secure Facebook page. We'd love to hear from our listeners and answer questions and stuff. So if you have anything you want answered at this part of the episode, send us a message. If you have us privately on Facebook, you can do that as well, but it's easier for us to keep track of if it goes to the Facebook.
I don't know, not at the moment. With the I've just been scrolling through to find the correct pronunciation for the place in New Zealand. It's like 900 messages there as people are updating things for
with
their
First Blood
list.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, we do the best we can.
Yeah, but look, we always love to hear from people. So if you want to send through any questions, comments, feedback, by all means, please do so. And
and we have had a few people, sending through messages saying that First Blood is their first event and they're excited about coming, or First Blood's their first event and they're nervous about coming. And so, it's been nice to hear from people who are coming to events as well as people who listen to us jabber on here.
Yeah.
If you are coming to First Blood and it is your first event and you don't know anyone else who's going to be in the room, I'll be one of the only female in the room. So
you might be the only one, to be honest.
I might be. There could be a couple of mums who are...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so like Leonie might be dropping Isaac off or something like that, possibly. Or girlfriends, partners, wives.
Yeah, that's true.
Coming along.
You'll be in bright orange.
I will be in bright orange, and one of the only females in the room does make me easier to spot. Mike is the one who generally has a group of people around, and he's the loudest one in the middle that's talking and not doing any work. So he's easy to spot as well.
Yeah. This is getting old. Everyone's heard this.
Not new people.
Well, that's true, but they don't need to. So anyway, we will take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of the First Blood lists and some of the changes that we've made for 2020, and make some predictions. Maybe not. We'll see how we go, how the episode pans out. But yeah, we'll be back in a second to talk all things First Blood. First Blood 2020, 5 years in.
What have we learnt?
That sometimes gamers can't be trusted to self-manage.
Oh no, there's no sometimes.
So First Blood started out in 7th edition with some fairly strict limitations.
Yeah.
And the second year we lightened that off, and the third year we lightened that off, and the fourth year we lightened it off again, and then the fifth year we've ratcheted it all the way back up to probably year 2.
So let's talk about why those limitations were in place when we first got started. What's the intention behind First Blood?
So it's a hobby event. It's not necessarily a cutthroat competitive event. It is designed to let you take your New Year army.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily, it isn't designed to be a cutthroat event.
That's true, yeah. And it's a hobby event. So you're meant to come along with your cool conversions and your cool models and...
themes, fun...
It's a chance for you to
Don't be afraid to bring fluff.
Yeah, take new armies that you might have gotten over the Christmas New Year break.
But you may not know how to necessarily...
play with them.
Yeah.
Not as well as you might for a regular army. It's also a great entry point if you haven't played at a tournament before, because the points values are quite low. We've never done one more than 1,000 points. They've always been between 750 and 1,000 points.
And it's a good opportunity, I guess, to... when you're starting building an army... to be able to add to it as the year goes on, and to be able to start with an event that is a bit fluffier, to be able to then, tweak it, modify it, that kind of thing, after you've had an opportunity to play at a more relaxed event. Yeah,
so it's 5 games as well, 90 minutes a game.
So this is one of the events that we work hardest at.
Yes.
Now it is a lot easier now that we've got down under pairings
Yep.
compared to when we were doing it with pen and paper.
That's true.
But yeah, no, it's one day, but doing 5 games, 90 minutes, it's full on. By the time
it's a constant cycle.
Yeah, by the time we've got a game started, it's finishing. Generally, we're running around trying to get the painting scoring done, although it looks as though we're not going to be doing that.
Yep, it looks like we are going to have another judge for this event.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he knows what he's got himself into.
No, I don't think
honest.
he does.
So normally we're going, okay, you take those, I'll take these, and then you just get started, and then bang, everybody moves, and who are you up to? Where have you done? Start again. So it's busy for us.
Absolutely, it's a very, very, very busy day.
Yeah, and it's obviously full on as well for the players to fit 5 games in.
The upside of this event, though, is the breaks are 15 minutes, not 10 minutes. The lunch break, I think, is 45, not 30, which it has been for some of our bigger events, because the times on the games are that little bit shorter.
Yeah.
So we got a bit more time to move throughout the day. At 800 points and 4x4 tables, so this is...
So that's interesting, because we haven't done 4x4 tables
We did
before.
for the first year.
Did we?
Yep. Because we had to tape off sections of the table because we only had
Which we'll be doing
6x4s.
again.
No, we won't.
So I know we should probably have this discussion when we're not on air, but so our intention is that we're taking the 3x4, we're taking the 2x4 boards and we're going to separate them out. But what are we going to do for the ones that don't match?
Mats.
And tape them off?
No. Turn them sideways. Anyway, we'll be fine.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about them being turned sideways and potentially slipping off.
They won't slip off. They're neoprene backed. They won't move anywhere. In any case, we're going back to 4x4s. We did it for the first year when it was only 750 points the first year.
Yeah.
When we ratcheted the points up to 1,000, particularly last year.
Is that your word for the episode, ratcheted?
I don't know. I'm trying to add new words to my vocabulary.
Okay, well, I think you're supposed to use them occasionally, not for every adjective. But anyway, when we increase the
last couple of years,
1,000.
it's been 1,000 points and 6x4s. And some of the feedback we had, particularly from last year, was that a 6x4 board with such a low level of points meant that there were some armies that just weren't in contention.
Yeah.
Straight off the bat. So going back to 4x4 means that the games are going to be closer, they're going to be more brutal, the objectives are going to be, despite them being randomly placed, they're going to be a bit more consistently placed at the same time because there's less places to put them.
Mm-hmm.
The deployment zones are rolled for this event, which is unusual for us because normally we fix the deployment zones.
Yep.
However, on a 4x4 board...
We've got a bit more space.
We kind of went, you know what, Vanguard Strike means you're playing left to right, not top to bottom. Hammer and Anvil is left to right. Dawn of War is top to bottom, but it's a square, so it just means you're playing a different direction on the terrain. So you can play on the same board twice and be a completely different game.
Yeah. Although we're still aiming not to have people play on the same board.
Table quarter still works just fine, albeit with a much smaller deployment zone. Pointy Dawn of War and Pointy Hammer and Anvil, whose names escape me, Spearhead and Frontline Assault, I think they are, both still work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with a slightly misshapen arrow format.
Yeah.
The only one that doesn't really work is Vanguard Strike. And if I can't work out the measurements to accurately allow players to do it quickly, we're going to be telling players to reroll Vanguard Strike because it's probably the one deployment type that'll be a bit fiddly to set up on a 4x4 board because it's designed for a rectangle.
Well, it turns out that it's only 3 days away, so you might want to get onto those measurements.
Yeah, well, that's tomorrow because I can pull all the boards out and do the measurements and work it out.
Right.
So, the first thing we have done is gone back down under 1,000 points. We're only 800 this year. And we've gone back to a single patrol, which is basically what we used to have a First Blood detachment, which was basically a patrol detachment back in the day.
Yeah.
And we've also put some fairly stringent limitations, which we workshop with our patrons prior to publication of the actual players pack, to try and get everyone back to remembering why First Blood is what it is.
It's something that we're trying to work on this year, is trying to make sure that we are really clear and transparent around the objectives for each of our events. And so that's why we did spend such a long time workshopping the players pack with patrons and I guess each other, trying to make sure that we could have that really clear and trying to work out how to articulate that, because although we I guess for me, I know the kind of feeling I'm trying to create with that event, but how do you articulate that?
What's been really good is out of the 82 lists that we've had submitted, I've had a number of players who, off their own back, have been going through them and checking points values and formats and letting me know what's missing and what's not missing, because checking 80 lists is a big task.
Yeah.
And the feedback I've had from the half a dozen players who've been doing that has been overwhelmingly, hey, out of the 82 lists, there's only 3 or 4 here that feel like they might have jumped past the line that we'd hoped to set. And even then, those lists aren't...
They're not super heavy.
They're not ridiculous. But they do feel just past where we were hoping they'd land. So that's been really positive to hear from some of our veteran players. The lists this year have also been required, which is a big change for most players, all the pre-game stratagems and, warlord traits, psychic powers, relics, anything pre-game, we've required to be on the army list and fixed for the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Now, a few people have gone, why would you do that? And the main reason is to speed up that pre-game sequence.
We've got 90 minutes.
It's also there to make the games consistent for the whole day for those newer players, so they don't have to worry about getting to the table and you then standing there with an army they're not familiar with saying, oh, I'm going to take this psychic power from this discipline and this psychic power from this discipline, and then I'm going to take this relic from this supplement, and then I'm going to take this warlord trait from this different supplement, and then I'm going to take these rules from this book. It's all there.
For me, it's less about thinking what somebody else is going to take, but more about, for the newer players, assisting them that they're not having to make those decisions on the fly.
That is true as well, yes.
So, I mean, it's all well and good saying that your opponent's going to take all of these different things and what do all of those different things do. But really, if I'm coming across an opponent that I'm not familiar with or recognise, how do I know which one is going to be the best one to take to be able to make that decision on the fly as well? So everything's set, everything's standard, and we've just reduced one of the elements that newer players may potentially struggle with.
So, as I said earlier, it's a straightforward single patrol detachment found in the main rulebook. We've disallowed legends, 40k legends, for this event. Now,
and that's for the similar reason that it is newer, aimed at newer players.
Yeah, I mean, this is an event that I'd probably consider adding legends to for future years, because it's kind of where the legends rules should probably fit, and because they are free to download, there's no reason why you could argue a new player couldn't access them as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, because the legends have only just been released, we haven't seen any FAQs or any information. There's a few issues with parts of them. It was easier just to kind of say, well,
for this event,
let's move on and you know. Everyone gets 4 command points to start the event. They can gain command points through different faction abilities. So things like when you take Red Corsairs, they get bonus command points if they take enough troops choices. If you've got a Warlord trait that gives you command points, there's a few different ways you can gain them. But otherwise everyone starts the game with 4, which can be spent on things like Chapter Master Stratagem or Operative Requisition for the Assassins to be added. If you're going to do those things, though, they're on the army list. If you didn't, then you missed out.
Yeah, so that was all written in the player's pack.
Yep.
And again, we found that... What percentage do you think didn't add those things to their army list and had to be...
In total, there were at least 25 out of 82 players who had some sort of issue on the army list.
Actually, that's not too bad. That's only,
it's about a third.
Yeah.
About a third of players they either missed pre-game stuff, or they missed psychic powers or traits or relics or any of that sort of stuff, or they didn't complete their Maelstrom card deck, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Okay, so...
That was by far the worst, was the cards.
The Maelstrom cards, yeah, it really was. I suppose, again, it's reiterating for me that people aren't reading the player's pack.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I know that a lot of the people who did add those things in, it would have been because we talked about it on podcasts and we talked about it on Facebook Live and friends told them to do it and things like that. So, but even if 25% aren't reading it, I'm wondering what we can do to try and get more people familiar with the players pack before the event. So as a serious question for people listening, for different learning styles, obviously reading it may not work for some people. is it useful if we do actually go through and read it and record it and have it as a download available?
Yeah, look, that could potentially work. To give you an example, I had a player get in touch with me and say to me, hey, one of my mates has just told me I've got to have an objective deck for my army list. That's not in the players pack anywhere. I said, yes, it is. It's it's part of the mission pack section. It's, the second half of the document. He said, no, I read the entire mission pack end to end and it's not there. And I went, well, the big bold section in the middle that says constructing your deck. Before playing one of the missions, you must construct a deck. This deck must be made up of this many cards chosen from this pool. No more than one copy can be included. Any list with no card deck submitted, da-da-da-da. And he went, I totally didn't see that. I said, it's a giant bold section in the middle of the page.
I get it, though. It's easy enough to be scrolling and read it,
but the thing is,
but just not take it in.
Well, that's it. He rhymed off the other stuff that's on that page, but just didn't take that section in at all.
Yeah. So I don't know whether or not, if we did have it as an audio that somebody could download, whether or not that would be helpful, or if we recorded it like we do a podcast and we talked through the different elements of it, whether that would be helpful. I don't know. So if your learning style isn't to read from a long electronic document, let us know what would be useful for you, because we do put a lot of time into creating these players. Well, you put a lot of time in, I don't. But there is a lot of time that goes into them, and there's a lot of what I would consider useful information that's in those. And some of that useful information means that you aren't penalised. So knowing when the when the lists are due, knowing that lists are actually due, that you have to buy a ticket. You can't rock up on the day and just pay your, how much is it? $40?
$40, yeah.
You can't just pay your $40 and make up a list on a piece of paper on the day. Those are things that are included in the players pack, but we still have people who don't realise.
Yeah.
So and if you didn't have your list in by midnight on Wednesday last week, I think, then there was a penalty for that. Yep. So
detailed in the players pack.
Detailed in the players pack. Yeah, exactly. So some people are going into the event with a penalty because they've, their army list was late. Some people potentially are going to have models taken off the table because they haven't seen that section that's in the players pack around the painting requirements, despite the fact that we've talked about it till we're blue in the face, and it's in the players pack, and there's photos, and it's on Facebook Live, and it's...
Well, that's actually one of my points to talk about in a second in terms of painting.
We'll get to that in a second then. Yeah. But, people are going to have their models taken off the table because we're not being lenient with that anymore. We don't want that to happen. So how can we make it easier for people to actually understand that players pack and to know what's in it?
Yeah. I mean...
apart from hiding more Easter eggs.
Which barely worked last time.
Well, no, but I think if you do it more often, then maybe people look for them.
Yeah. I suppose, yeah. Would us doing... We did it in 2018, I think it was. We Easter egged a phrase in the players pack that if you read the whole thing, you found the bit that talked about it and then...
Went back and found the word on this word, this page and this page and this page.
There were 13 out of 66 people who got a raffle ticket that weekend for a free prize. So, we've talked about the penalty and the command points. It's a match play event, so it uses all the match play rules. It's using the rule of 1 for the event, except for dedicated transports and troops.
As opposed to the rule of 3.
Yes. It's an easy way of saying Highlander, essentially. It means that you can't see people spamming the same units again and again and again that are optimized. So...
we have done an episode on Highlander, haven't we?
I don't know. Maybe. All models must be painted to battle-ready standards.
Mm-hmm. And there's photos of that in the players pack?
Yeah, there's also a link to Games Workshop's definitions about battle-ready and some painting videos about how to get it to that stage.
Nice and quickly and easily.
We've done everything we possibly can.
Yeah.
And in big bold letters, note that any model that does not meet this standard will be asked to be removed from the table, no exceptions.
Which means if your whole army isn't battle ready...
we're going to be asking you not...
Yeah, you won't be putting anything on the table.
Yeah. We don't want that to happen. Conversions...
You've got 3 days.
Conversions are the usual rule. On the correct size base with a similar silhouette with the right weapons on them, we're okay. People have been overly cautious, like they usually are. I've only knocked back a couple. And the players in question, when they brought me those, we've talked through it, and they've been really understanding, and I've explained my concerns, and we've either had a change in the army list or they're making the appropriate changes to the model as suggested, so that's been really positive.
Awesome.
WYSIWYG is required. Any models that are summoned or blah, 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 that are added to your army post the start of the game must meet all the same standards as the rest of the army. We're assuming that models are on the most current base sizes from Games Workshop. If you have models on alternate base sizes, if they were supplied with them in the past release, that's okay, but you have to have spoken to us first. Or if you've changed the base size voluntarily yourself, you have to have let us know.
Because your model won't fit on that base size and it will topple over.
Yeah.
And,
or if you've, and again, it's a common sense thing. If you've taken a 32mm drone base, which is one of those flat, clear ones, and you've used a 32mm lipped base, like I do with my Tau drones, that's fine. You're not changing the size of it.
Yeah.
You're just
Changing
making
the
it...
colour.
Well, it's for me, it's about being able to texture them and make them match. If you're going from a 25mm to a 40mm base,
Let's have a chat.
for a character, why?
Yeah. And I know in the past that we've had people who have said, I'm putting my models on this. This is a hobby army.
Yeah.
It's a passion project. It's going on 32mm bases regardless. It's just, can I play with it or not?
Yeah.
So, and this is the event for that, really, isn't it? Because this is where you bring your passion projects out.
And even other events where players have put a model on the wrong size base and it's gone up in a base size, generally it's a case of, okay, cool, we're going to drop your aura by half an inch, or we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's generally okay.
Yeah.
So then we added a bunch of extra specific caveats for this event. You may not include more than a single model with a toughness value of 8 or higher. That's to stop Space Marine players rocking up with 2 or 3 repulsors, which are dedicated transports, and obviously having a bunch of toughness 8 models that are really hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
Or multiple Wraith Lords and, some of those other sort of dreadnoughty type things. Leviathan dreadnoughts, that sort of thing. No individual model can have more than 14 wounds. So you can have 14 wounds, which means you can fly a Valkyrie on the table, but you can't...
Can't have 15, because that's what no more than 14 means.
Yeah. You'd be amazed at how many players have said, hey, I've got this model that's got 14 wounds, is it okay?
Yeah, look, I understand that, because people do use it interchangeably. Like, we're closing between the 15th and the 21st. Does that mean, are you open on the 15th or are you closed on the 15th? Yeah. So I understand, but to me, no more than 14 means 14 or less.
Yeah, exactly. That was the intent for it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No unit or single model may have a total points value that exceeds 270 points. Now, that was a very specific number we worked towards.
Yeah.
Because originally it was 250.
Yes.
And we had a few players...
I didn't want it to be 272.5, but that was just for fun.
270 let a couple of the minimum squad sizes for some armies' units in.
Yeah.
Without it allowing ridiculous, crazy things. You can actually get a Leviathan Dreadnought into the game with these 3 stipulations because they have 14 wounds. They are toughness 8, but the only way you can get it in is by giving it 2 close combat weapons instead of guns.
Yeah.
If you're crazy enough to do that,
it somehow.
Yep, that's fine.
Not somehow, it handicaps it somewhat.
Yep. You may include a single flyer battlefield roll, and that's purely to stop Eldar flyer spam, where they've got 3 really good flyers they could put into the table for about 450 points. So a single flyer means that everyone's in the mix. You can always kill and target something. You must include at least 1 full-size troops choice or at least 2 troops choices in your army. This was to push the game back towards a patrol where you are using troops choices. So the elite armies that I've seen through things like Custodes tended to take a full squad. It was either 1 squad of 5 Sagittarium Guard, which was the max size, or they were taking 2 squads of 3 Custodian Guards. There's a lot of players who are running 2 troops choices because we've said you have to either run 1 max size or 2 non-max size. But it's good to see that it's pushed. And like I was talking to someone and he said, but Imperial Guard can do 2 troop choices for 80 points. That's ridiculous. And I said, yeah, but with the rule of 1 and it being a patrol with limited slots and only one toughness 8 vehicle in the whole army, you're not going to see a wall of Lehman Russes because they can only field 1.
Yeah.
And you still have to abide by all the other bits and pieces and the scoring mechanics. So the cheaper armies are limited in other ways with the other limits.
Yeah.
The last little dot point in the army list section is please remember to write a list in the spirit and theme of the event. People deliberately trying to break the format may be asked to resubmit their list.
Yeah, that was a tricky point because we didn't want to be in a position where there was anything was done based on like judgment basis. Yeah. We wanted something that was concrete and
that wasn't subjective.
Yeah.
That's in there purely so that if someone does submit an army list that
goes
that is
against
clearly trying to take the mickey,
yeah,
then we can make that call. But like I say, I haven't had to do that. And the couple of players that I have spoken to pre-event who gave me pilot lists, if you will,
yep,
I gave some feedback to, and I don't see the original version of those lists here, which is really positive. We are using the ETC scoring differential.
Yes.
For the rounds. We are going to use the ITC ruling that all ruins will treat any openings such as doors and windows found on ground floors to be closed and will block line of sight. That doesn't mean you create walls.
Doesn't mean you create windows either.
No. And ruins that are not based will draw a straight line from the ends of the wall sections to determine if a unit is in the area. Mm-hmm. All pretty standard stuff these days. We then move on to...
Sorry, just to go back to that doesn't mean you create walls. So with that, that's around if you've got a window that's sort of broken, like jagged off on the corner.
Yeah.
You don't sort of imagine that wall's full
panel.
And it's the 90-degree angle would be up the top here.
No.
So yeah, I just realised I cut you off when you were talking about the don't create walls. I just had a horrible vision of somebody poking a hole through and creating a window. So yeah.
We then move on to the missions, which we are... Now, the mission pack, we should say, is extensive. It makes up literally half the pack.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's pretty standard stuff. Objective markers may only be placed on the ground floor. Distance are always measured to the center of the objective marker, regardless of the size of the marker. Acceptable casualties is a rule for every mission. So being tabled doesn't automatically end the game, and it doesn't automatically score you max points. Slay the Warlord, first strike, and line breaker in every mission. Objectives are always placed in order, unless the mission tells you otherwise. So 1 followed by 2 followed by 3, etc. There is no random game length. We're going straight 6 turns.
Okay.
And that worked really well at Masters for 2019. So we're going to put it in for this one and see how that goes. Players will need to construct a Maelstrom of War deck, following the rules on page 70 of Chapter Approved 2019. The summary of which is 18 cards, no duplicates, from a single deck, whether it's the standard deck or your faction-specific deck. And anyone who didn't submit a card list is now going to be lumbered with the full 36-card deck.
Yep.
The method of drawing cards and achieving cards and discarding cards and all those other bits and pieces is exactly out of Chapter Approved 2019, as are priority received notes, the stratagems that are included in Chapter Approved 2019. It is all straight out of Chapter Approved 2019. Mm-hmm. So if you're familiar with that and you've got the book, that's where it all comes from.
Yep.
The 5 missions are all from Chapter Approved 2019. They are territorial control, covert maneuvers, critical objective, confined command, and ambitious surge are the 5. And they are in the player's pack, but they are all essentially copy and pasted from Chapter Approved 2019. If you've got that book, you can go and look them up. There are page references as well. What's interesting about these missions, which I don't think we've really talked about, is they are attacker-defender missions.
Okay.
So the pre-game process sees you roll off to determine who will be the attacker and who will be the defender. The defender then rolls for the deployment zone. Mm-hmm. And then selects which of those deployment zones they're going to deploy in.
Okay.
Then the attacker uses the other deployment zone and sets their entire army up first, and then the defender deploys their army, and the attacker decides who gets to go first, and if they decide to go first, then the defender can try and seize. So the final result is probably the same as the previous wording. It's just by allocating an attacker-defender, it also then gives you some opportunity later in the mission scoring process to kind of manipulate how you score points. You can have different objectives for attackers and defenders, and it works really well for some of the other missions. Now, we're not using those necessarily for this event, but by giving an attacker and a defender as a matched play mission, it gives Games Workshop... they've been really clever, because it's going to let them add other missions that are narratively slanted with attacker and defender into matched play. These 5 missions were the 5 that I felt worked the best for a tournament. There is a 6th one that wasn't used, and I think it could have been, but it was the one that we decided not to.
Yeah.
So the missions are all straight out of chapter approved, very easy to go and find and check out. We've always done that for First Blood. It's always been core rulebook stuff, because we want it to be as easy for someone coming from a store for the first time to then come and play, because throwing someone in the deep end with a complex ETC mission or an ITC rewrite mission when they've never seen them before, if they've only been playing at the store or with their mates, and that's just it's a barrier. So by giving them straight out of the book missions, even though they are chapter approved missions, they're still ones that if you're playing games in stores, you're probably going to have seen. So very much not a typical tournament in air quotes, because we have kind of like a lot of the tournaments these days change the format and change the missions and change this, that, and the other. We've tried to stay as close to core rules as possible in terms of the missions.
We're trying to stay away from the concept of tournament and make it around being an event rather than being a tournament.
So yes, there are 4 categories. We've got peer judged painting award. Now, to be clear on that, by the time we get to the end of Game 3, the goal is to have all of the armies scored by the judges. That score will go against your Renaissance Award, which I'll cover in a second. And then the top 10 will be out for peer voting.
Oh, wow. So we've got lunch after Game 3.
Yep.
And the top 10 will be out in the lunch break.
Yep.
That's a huge amount of pressure on us to get that painting score done in the morning.
Yep. But the painting scorecard's been completely revised as well to make it a bit easier for us and more clear for the players.
Brilliant.
So, you will have it's peer judged, and that'll be the painting award.
Okay, so the top 10 are going out for, was it beauty pageant?
Yeah.
And then people will get to choose from those ones and put their vote in.
Yep. There's favourite opponent. We've deliberately not called it sportsmanship. It is favourite opponent, which is what it is. It's...
Just move on.
Yeah. I'm almost at the point we should take it out, but I know you don't want to.
We're not taking it out. I think we need to revise it and we need to get it back to sportsmanship. And this is why I said move on.
Yeah. Best general, which is
sportsmanship is very important to me. Don't you wish you'd moved on when I told you to?
Which is on round points first and then counted back on battle points, then counted back on victory points, then counted back on the highest sportsmanship score.
So we haven't got sportsmanship in there?
Well, I have to use sportsmanship because that's what Down Under Pairings uses. That's what it labels our favourite opponent award as. And then rather than having overall, it's been relabeled the Renaissance Award. So it's the combined generalship, sports, and judge-painted scoring.
Yes, okay. So obviously, so that way everyone gets a paint score, not just the top 10.
Yep. So functionally, it is slightly different to the old overall score. However, all the conversations I've had around renaming this, renaming it to the Renaissance, because that is where, the days of old when the overall prize was a combined total of those things. What you're coming to the tournament is different for each player. Some players don't care about the overall award and they go for best general, or they go for best painting, or they go for whatever. And I've had a number of players over the last few years, particularly in the last 12 months, say that they feel like the overall award detracts from winning the other categories. So there will still be overall winners for some events like Masters, but renaming it was one that it was about changing the perception of this, particularly for this event, because we don't necessarily want an overall winner. It's a hobby event, so we want to recognise.
It is, but I guess for me that's kind of the point of the hobby event, is that this is about all aspects of the hobby. So it's about making sure that you're not just recognising the people who do well in playing the game, but it's about the painting is part of the hobby and being a good sports is part of the hobby, and so it's all aspects of it together. So, yeah.
So we have those 4 prize categories.
I think we should have called it the ultimate hobbyist.
We can talk about that for the next event. We have new medals for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The company we organise our trophies and medals from has given us a nice, fancy new style for 2020, which I'm very pleased about. They're really cool looking medals. I'm looking forward to giving those out. We've also got prizes for first, second, and third in every category, all 4 of them. So we have 12 different prizes to give away on the weekend, and you're only eligible for a single award in each. So if you win the Renaissance first place, and you also win Best General, you only get the Renaissance Award prize.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make our awards thing at the end mean that 12 people out of 82 get a prize, but it does mean I'm going to have to make sure the right people get the right prizes.
Well, yeah, because it's around... And this I struggle with a little bit, because who says that Best General is a more important prize than painting?
Well, we've got it set up. I mean, we've got it set up in order.
Yeah.
My biggest
And you've got to pick an order.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's just... Yeah, it's just that there's got to be, I guess, value added to those.
The only thing I haven't clarified in here is it says players will only be eligible for a single award each.
Mm-hmm.
So, say, for example, you win the Renaissance Award.
Yeah.
The chances are you've probably
picked up
top 3'd in one of the others.
Yeah.
Does it devalue it when you have to give out second place to third place in a category, and then potentially third place going to 4th or 5th place, because those players have won in other categories? Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do follow what you say.
Yeah. So I like the idea of 12 people walking away with a prize of some kind, but if you finished 5th in a category and you ended up with 3rd place because the person who got 2nd, 3rd and 4th and whatnot had won other categories, that's the thing I'm still struggling with at the moment to try and figure out.
It's in the players pack, so you got to do it now.
Yep. But that's something that's weighed on me when I set this up. Because it was also written with the intent that you would we're talking about first place rather than
any prize.
Yeah.
Because we don't normally do prizes for second and third. We
No.
often don't do prizes. It's just medals. So
no, but we had the pool for it.
And even with that,
so yeah, at the moment, what is likely to happen is if you get the so if you get a medal, if you are first, second, or third, you'll get the medal, but you won't get the prize, and then we can hand that down through the ranks. That's another option.
yeah.
Anyway, that's something we've got to figure out in the next 4 days.
Yeah, I think that you'd have to have it that if you win, say, for example, the Renaissance, if you get first, second, or... if you get second, does that mean that you can't get first in another one?
Category, exactly.
So if you get first for Renaissance, you're ineligible for
everything.
And...
you'd have to do it so you'd count it down. So first for Renaissance, general, paint, opponent, and then first for opponent is worth more than second in Renaissance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then go second for all 3, and then third for all 3 in that order.
Yeah. And then I think that person just becomes ineligible for any other award, and so they're taken from the pool. So they're not considered to have come second, and therefore the person who's come second is actually the person who came 4th, because the other people have been removed from that.
It's just a bit fiddly.
It is, but that's the way that I think that we just have to rank all of them.
Yeah.
and then go from there. So at the end of the event, when we look like we're having a major argument and we're scrapping over at the TO table, firstly, don't come and talk to us because we're not arguing. We are just trying. That's kind of the most hectic point for us, isn't it? Where we're trying to make sure that all the prizes are going to the right people. And it is a lot easier now. We've got software scoring. Scoring software is what I meant to say. But it's still, that kind of stuff the software can't do for us.
Yeah. It's always hectic. And with 80 players, it's only going to be more so. So the other thing I thought I'd mention before we move on to looking at some of the interesting things that you might see on a list is the way the pairing's going to work.
Yeah, so we're not doing
Swiss. Swiss is the way it's normally been
normally
done.
Swiss, is that? Yeah.
We're actually going to use bracketed pairings, which are done out of... we started using them with Underworlds.
Yeah, and we've debated this backwards and forwards however many times as well, haven't we?
So what it basically means is, in theory...
The top two players
don't meet each other until the final round.
Yeah.
Now, I don't actually know we've got enough rounds to make that happen. So there's definitely going to be countbacks, but that would happen with Swiss anyway because of the 80-player pool. We'd have to think... I think we need like 7 rounds, 8 rounds to get an outright winner.
I can't do it.
I'm not doing it with my fingers. I'm deliberately resisting that count that I would normally do.
Yeah.
But the reason this... what it does mean is that first of all, you're always going to be playing someone who has got a similar win-loss record to yourself. But it also means it's impossible to submarine to victory. Because you will always be playing someone who is comparable to you. Dropping one game doesn't drop you out of the chance of winning an award, but it does change the pool that you're competing within. So it'd be interesting to see what result that gives us at the end of the weekend. The problem is we're never going to be able to tell what it changed just by the nature of the event.
No, we won't.
So you won't just be able to look at Down Under pairings as a player and go, I'm ranked 6th. I'm going to be playing the dude who's ranked 5th. It's not going to work that way. So it's going to be more important on your win-loss. Because the brackets work by basically breaking you up into a bracket of exactly what your win-loss draw is.
Yeah, so the first round, as always, is random.
I believe, and I can't be certain because it doesn't tell me specifically in Down Under pairings,
seeded.
I believe it's seeded. So now that all the lists are all confirmed, I could actually do a random, like I could do round 1 to see what it does, but I can't confirm that now.
Press the button and find out.
You don't like me pressing buttons while we're talking.
No, but we're talking about it, and I would like to be able to... I said the first round is random so confidently, and then it turned out I was wrong.
Well, the other thing is I can't set up first round because everyone has to register on the day.
Oh, fine.
So we're not going to know until the day.
Okay, so the first round is either random or it's seeded. So insert correct response.
I've been told by Down Under pairings that it should be seeded. I've got no way of knowing if. I'll be able to tell very quickly if it has seeded round 1 because I'll be able to tell on the day.
So that's going to be interesting for people who have never played in events or who have,
This is a guinea pig tournament for us. We do a lot of things with this event each year just to test different things, and this is one of them.
It's an interesting thought because you've got strong players who haven't necessarily played in events before who are going to be playing against...
We've got a lot of returning players as well.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Like I was going through the player list, which you can do if you're an attendee, or if you're not an attendee, you can just go into First Blood on Down Under pairings. All the army lists are there as well. They've been made public. Like I saw a gentleman by the name of Chris Petty and another one by the name of Jason Chaplin. Both are... I used to play against... Yeah. Jason hasn't played in 5 or 6 years, and Chris hasn't played in probably longer than that. There's a few names that I recognise that come to events regularly, and there's a whole bunch of new names in this list as well. Brand new first-timers. So... The new players aren't going to know any different, so that's fine. The older players aren't going to know any different because they haven't played the new editions and the new formats, so that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
So we should be able to fudge it a little bit. It's going to be fine.
Well, look, it is what it is, so we'll see how we go, really, won't we?
Yeah, pretty much. So in terms of the army lists, because we've still got a little bit of time up our sleeve, we're going to have a quick look at not the lists themselves, because we don't want to sort of pull them apart and explain.
You suggested
what
that we
they
would
do.
go through some of the lists, and I sort of think that that's probably something to do in the next episode, where we can look at how we thought things would go and what actually happened for them based on the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't want to do that because it seems a little unfair to go, oh, well,
This is this combo, this is how it works.
and this is what we think their strength's going to be, and this is how we think that you could beat them.
Yeah. So, and
Actually, who's coming that we don't like? Let's do that.
I had so many names I could throw in there, and I just don't know how some of them would take it. So,
We are both only joking.
yeah. So one thing,
Not really.
one thing that has confused some of the guys who've been list checking these armies have been the Tyranid lists. So we actually have 6, I believe it is, Tyranid armies. 6 out of 82.
So we haven't got any female players attending?
I don't believe so. No,
I've actually got the list that I can pull up on my screen as well.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's a shame.
It is. So 6 Tyranid lists. They got a new option in Psychic Awakening Book 3 called Adaptive Physiologies.
Yeah, so this is where they don't choose their warlord trait, but can...
They basically get a new rule. So
Yeah.
I believe every Tyranid player has done that. And some of them have also spent the command point to give a second unit an adaptive physiology. What it did do, though, is for those players who aren't familiar with Tyranids, flagged them and went, hey, there's no warlord trait in this list, not knowing that the reason they don't have a warlord trait is because of them taking the adaptive physiologies. So the stratagem that they can take is called a Progeny of the Hive, which is 1 command point pre-game, and it lets you take essentially a second physiology. You can only do it once per game as well, so you can't have the entire army with it. So that's something to be aware of when you're playing the Tyranid armies, is that they will not necessarily have a warlord trait, and it's worth you double-checking what that physiology is and what it does. They're found on page 76 of Blood of Baal, which is the Psychic Awakening Book 3. The Tyranid, you'll also probably want to have a look at and understand what the different monsters are, because there are some very underused units from the Tyranid army coming to this event, which is great. I'm really excited to see some of those units. Things like the Maliceptor, which I had to go and look up what the model looked like because I'd never seen it anywhere. So it's worth having a quick look at those Tyranid armies, because they do make up just under 7.3% of the pool. Definitely worth going and having a look at. The chances of you playing a Tyranid player aren't unreasonable.
Yeah.
We've got 13 Space Marine players. It's a decent variety of Space Marine players in that they're not just copy-pasted to the ends of the earth and back again. We've got Iron Hands, we've got Crimson Fists. I think I saw Space Wolves lurking around in there as well. We've got Orcs coming, and not typical Orc armies, which is nice. There's quite a decent variety. The Salamanders, there's Imperial Fists. I believe I saw Raven Guard in there as well. So we've got a really good range of... Even common armies are coming out with a decent range.
We don't have much variety in our player names.
No, there's a lot of double ups. I'm glad we're not calling names over the PA anymore.
Yeah, me too. I'm just going through it going, okay, so chances of you
Aaron,
playing
Aaron,
or
Adam,
Alex or Daniel.
Oh, yeah, there's 4
or
Alexes, yeah.
Dean, Doug. It's just Jake, Jack or James, Jason, Jonathan. Like, they're all just...
Oh, the J's are extensive. You go Jack, Jake, James, Jared, Jason, Jaden, Joe, Jonathan, Jordan. There's a lot of J's.
Yeah. On the up, no Mikes.
No, that was a very surprising thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the only Michael in the room.
Oh, no, there is Mike.
Is there?
Mike Claffey.
Oh, Mike Claffey, yeah. Speaking of him, we have Adeptus Mechanicus coming and making an appearance. I'm not sure how many there are, though. There's not too many of them, I believe. I think it's 5. Yeah, it's 5. We also have 5 Death Guard, and 5 Necrons. Necrons is another one you'll probably want to go and have a look at, because the Necron players are bringing stuff that probably won't be seen on the tables too often. There's a really good variety of stuff. The Custodes lists, because of the limits in the build, are also going to be bringing, like, the Venerati, Forge World, Jump Pack guys are coming in a lot of the Custodes lists, which is cool to see. The Grey Knights are coming. I think there's at least 2 Grey Knights I'm aware of. There's even Harlequins. Like, I was really genuinely surprised to find out that we had Harlequins. We have, I think it's 2 Harlequin players, which takes some guts. Only 1 Genestealer Cult, 1 Deathwatch, 1 Dark Angels, and 1 Demons. Demons is a returning player as well, one of our good friends, Brad.
I was just looking at his list.
2 Harlequins, 2 Grey Knights, 3 Blood Angels, 4 Tau, 4 Orcs, 4 Drakari, 5 Necrons, 5 Death Guard, 5 Militarum, 5 Mechanicus, 5 Custodes, 6 Nids, 6 Asianes, 7 Heretic Astartes, and 13 Adeptus Astartes. We even have some of these lists dropping in an Assassin and an Inquisitor. I believe I saw one in Jordan Beresford's Adeptus Mechanicus army. It's led by Inquisitor Cotiez as well as a Dominus. So it's ironically, the only army that I don't see in this list is Sisters of Battle.
Yeah, and I know that was one.
And Sisters of Silence, but that don't count.
I know that was one that we were worried about.
Yeah, I actually got the codex to make sure I had an ability to know what we were dealing with, and no one's got them. So it's a really good variety in the field. 45%, so 37 out of 82 are Imperium armies. 13 of the 82 are Chaos. 12 of them are Eldari in some way, shape, or form. 6 of them are Tyranids. 5 of them are Necrons. 4 are Orcs. 4 are Tau. And 1 is Genestealer Cults, because someone likes playing on hard mode. What's interesting is it's not our usual Genestealer Cults players. It's
Who is it?
his name's Alex. He's running Genestealer Cults, but guys like Dean Langford, who's run Genestealer Cults pretty much all of 2019, hasn't brought them. I know that Matt Smith from the Snake Eye Squad has run them. Vince has run them. There's a few players who've been running them over 2019, and none of them have taken Genestealer Cult. So I'm going to be really interested to see how Alex goes on a 4x4 board with
All right.
with.
I'd just been looking at Alex Benjamin, so I was like, I'm sure it's not him.
No, he's playing Orcs.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing about this army, the Genestealer Cult one, and I'm not going to give too much away, but it's a Jackal Alphys, a Patriarch, 2 units of Brood Brothers, a Sanctus with the Bio Dagger, not the Sniper Rifle, which is interesting. 2 Ridge Runners, a squad of Jackals with only a single demo charge, but it has a Wolf Quad as well, a Brood Brother heavy weapon team, and then a Cult Chimera and a Rock Grinder. It's kind of, hey, here's all the units that no one takes. Let's put them in one army list.
Sounds like fun to me.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes with that. There's no aberrants. There's no acolytes. All of the elite characters, apart from the Sanctus, are missing. And the Sanctus he took has the dagger, not the sniper rifle. The Jackals aren't loaded up with demo charges. It's an interesting one.
Might be interesting to have a chat with him, depending on how the day goes, to find out why he made those choices.
Yeah, the Death Guard are all pretty common in terms of how they're built. Very similar builds for the Demon Princes. Ben Wooding, for those of you who might have seen the list the first time around, Ben made a copy-paste error.
Okay.
And it's been updated since the original release of the list, because he had a 900 and something point list. He managed to copy and paste it over itself twice. And someone picked it up and went, I think there's a problem here. So we went in and corrected it. So now it's under 800 points, which is great.
It is.
I love seeing Brad's list all the time, and I want to touch on it very, very quickly. Brad is not a fast painter. And he's using some of the old... I actually had this question from another player during the week. Can I use the old Greater Demons as Greater Demons? No, you can't.
No, so that's why he's using it as a Demon Prince.
So he's using his old Fate Weaver as a Demon Prince of Chaos with Mark of Zench. He's also got a Poxbringer, Plague Bearers, Brimstone Horrors, Flamers, and Screamers. So it's I would have loved to have seen a unit from each god, but it's also a really bad army if you do that at 800 points. So I get why he didn't. But it's cool to see a variety of demon units there because, Flamers, Screamers, Brimstone Horrors, only one big unit of Plague Bearers and a Demon Prince. Then it's not the typical Demon Prince. So good to see. The Tau, there's a little bit of variety.
Brett?
Unfortunately, the Riptide does make it into this format if you build it right. Which he...
2 points to spare.
Yeah, Brett. We're looking at Brett's list at the moment. It's 268 instead of 270, so he's just snuck it in there, which is good for him. What's interesting about this is if you do want your Crisis Commander, you're only going to have one because the Tau book limits you to one for match play per detachment. You've only got one detachment to work with, and you've only got 2 HQ slots. And because of the troop requirements, you're actually going to want a Cadre Fireblade to buff the Fire Warriors that you're inevitably going to have. So, the Tau list at the moment is a bit hurt by the format. Not hurt super badly, but it does kind of limit parts of it to some degree. We've got Black Templars army, which is always cool to see with a couple of Crusader squads and the Emperor's Champion and, only one Whirlwind for support. I love Connor and his Drakari. He's running Drahazar, along with Carbolight Warriors and Incubi. Scourges. I don't remember the last time I saw Scourges on the table.
I'm excited to see some of these players back again.
Yeah,
so
there's a few names on this list that
Connor hasn't played for quite some time.
Yeah, over a year.
One of our events. Brad hasn't. Daniel Mahai hasn't played at any of the events.
Well, this army was the one he did up for Armies on Parade for 2019, I believe. So he actually sent me a message going, "Hey Mike, these particular guns, are these shuriken cannons?" And I went, "Well, yeah, why?" And he said, "I'm putting them I wrote them in my army list and I just didn't know which ones to paint. I think these are the right ones." So to make sure they were WYSIWYGs, that was nice of him to check. There's been those sorts of conversations which have been fun as well. The one comment I will make for some of this is there's quite a few players who've used Battlescribe, which we in the past and even in this players pack say please don't do because of the errors. If you're going to include and use Battlescribe, we're going to have to start putting some caveats on how you export them, because there's guys in here who've clearly exported them with the stat lines and rules and all the other bits and pieces for their own use on the day, and that's not ideal either. But if you're going to put it in and submit it, your opponent
that stuff out. Yeah,
there are options in Battlescribe to turn off all of those bits and pieces, so you can turn off profiles, turn off rules, because some of the I've gone in and edited them as best I can. But
yeah, I just think that we've spoken about this privately, but I actually think that just creating a format like a Word document type thing that people can just copy and paste into, which has a space that asks for Warlord trait and has a space that asks for the Maelstrom cards. That way, it's one, it's yet another prompt to remind people to make sure that they have it correct. And it may mean that people have to copy and paste. Well, we don't want people using Battlescribe, so it would mean that people have to copy and paste out of that into a different document and then put them all into the right, the right spaces. So that's something that you're going to work on for the next event, right?
Yep. And we've tried formats before, and players just don't do them.
No.
Which I'm trying to decide at what point do we start turning around and saying, well, if you don't do it, we're just going to reject it and you have to redo it. And that...
Well, it comes down to why are we saying that we're not taking Battlescribe? Like, is it just because it doesn't look good, or is there a functional reason as to why we don't want that?
It's a combined thing.
Yeah, I know.
First things first is there are errors in Battlescribe, and I would hate to be in a position where someone suffered a potentially tournament-ending penalty for an illegal army or over points or whatever it is. because the
Battlescribe
Battlescribe was
wasn't
wrong, and I don't want someone to go, well, Battlescribe said it was right,
Yeah.
because as far as I'm concerned, that's not an excuse. So, and we're not alone in that. There's many, many, many tournaments around the world that do this. If you look at LVO do not let you submit Battlescribe, and they are just literally just rejecting things. And that's, I'm sure, partly to do with their relationship with Games Workshop. But at the same time, ironically, they're using the ETC format of list submission. So, I like I say, Battlescribe's a funny one. People are going to use Battlescribe to submit the lists, and I think all it'll take is a single player being penalised for an illegal list using Battlescribe.
Yeah.
Before the community goes, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I shouldn't, just trust this thing implicitly because there are mistakes. We had one player in Battlescribe submit an army list using index options. Now, we worked with him and made amendments to that list because you can't use the indexes. But they're in Battlescribe. Same with Legends. They're in Battlescribe.
Yeah.
So it's no longer as cut and dried as just using Battlescribe.
And the issue is really, if people cut and paste it out of Battlescribe, they're still in there, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, yes, it would be in a different format and in the correct format that everybody else is submitting it in, but those errors are still there.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like Battlescribe is a good tool for mucking about and building armies, but when you're submitting them for a tournament, particularly because you've paid to go to that tournament, for whatever reason you're going, the goal at that point isn't relevant. You're paying for an experience.
And you don't want to be...
You don't want to get halfway through the day and have a TO come over and go, oh, by the way, your army's illegal.
Yeah.
So
the last 3 games that you've won, you're actually now getting 0 for.
Yeah. So I feel like I would rather push the community to say, use Battlescribe to build your army, muck about with it.
And then go back and check.
hand check it, because all the points values are now in one place. Chapter Approved 2019 redid the points values for the entire game in one book.
Yeah.
Every war gear option, every unit entry, everything in one spot. So it's actually not that hard to build based on points, as long as you know what the war gear options are for your squad. So I feel like that's the safest way of getting an army list without an error, because, I really don't want to be in a position where I go to a player and say, hey, your army list's illegal. As such, the players pack says, you're penalised with losses for all those games.
And maybe that's something that we can look at putting together as part of, we've got the tabletop tournament prep guide as something that we have available. Maybe an online workshop that we can pre-record around how to write an army list without using Battlescribe for people who don't actually know how to do that.
Well, that's it. Technologies. I've heard it so many times. If Games Workshop produced an army builder app for 40k at a subscription, I'd pay for it.
Yeah,
within reason.
Yeah, but they don't.
No, they don't. But because of that, Battlescribe has filled a void that a modern community wants, because we want the electronic access. And unless you've been gaming for 20 years where you didn't have that prior, you actually probably haven't built the habits of doing it the hard way.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
When you I know when you're coming up with a new army list, because there's bits of paper with your chicken scratching handwriting on all over the house as you scrub out that particular unit and add that in, and what does that do to points and all of those kinds of things. But people who are 10 or 15 years younger than you wouldn't be doing that.
10 years younger than me is 31.
Okay, people who are 20 or 25 years younger than you.
God, I feel old.
Isn't the 90s like 10 years ago?
Oh, I wish. It's like 25 years ago.
But even, as much as we joke, surely 31-year-old knows how to do that. 31-year-olds are a whole generation younger than us.
Well, that's true.
So, and still grew up with the internet a lot more than we did.
Well, that's it. I saw the release of the internet in Australia.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have. Or maybe they would have, but they would have been kids, not like I would have, 17 or 18, yeah. So, there's definitely worth your time. If you're playing at the event, go to downunderpairings.com, hit events in the top section. on page 1 of the events load, there's Objective Secured First Blood 2020. Click on that. It'll take you to the public page. There's a tab that says Army Lists. Click Army Lists, and you can see all the Army Lists in all their glory. They've been through a couple of rounds of correction, so as far as I'm concerned, we're done and dusted now.
They're all correct.
If there are any others that sort of jump out, we'll deal with them on a case-by-case basis. If you didn't submit a deck of cards, then I'm sorry, you're going to be playing with the full deck.
If you are playing against an opponent at First Blood and you feel that there is an issue with your opponent's army, please talk to your opponent as you notice it.
Yep.
And if it's appropriate, talk to us as you notice it. If you tell us that there's an issue with your opponent's army next Wednesday, it is too late and we can't do anything about it.
If you're not certain about their rules, if you're not certain about their army list, if you're not certain about the war gear, the psychic powers, how any of it works, come and tell us. And it doesn't have to be rude and horrible to your opponent. It just has to be, I'm not sure, can you show me the rules for that, please? Yeah. And if you don't agree with what's going on, and they've shown you the rules and you still don't agree, then come and find me.
Yeah, and if you're, particularly anxious or you think it will draw undue attention, walking across the room and going and getting Mike and then going back to the table, send him a text message. His mobile number is on page 2 or 3 of the players pack. And then we've hidden it repeatedly through the players pack, so you'll read it. See how many times you can find it in the players pack. So his mobile number is there. Text him. Probably don't send a Facebook message to either of us during the day because we are busy, and especially for the first 3 games.
Yeah, Facebook just doesn't get checked.
No, it doesn't. So for the first 3 games, we will be doing painting scoring. So that's probably not the best time to send us a Facebook message, but sending Mike a message to his mobile.
Yeah,
he will check that because it pings all the time.
Yes, it does.
That. If you can hear that noise, that's 2 of our dogs who have decided to play fight underneath my chair.
Under the recording, yeah.
So,
but yeah, what we'll probably do in a couple of weeks, once the dust has settled, we'll have a look at the top 3 or 5 armies. Hopefully some of our patrons will be in that pool as well, because there are a number of the patrons who are playing who have brought some interesting armies.
Yeah, so we might look at some of the top armies and we might look at some interesting armies and pull them apart, have a look at what choices people made, and we might try and look at those and see if we've got any questions and actually ask those of the players on the day.
Yeah.
For example, why did you choose to bring all the bits that normally people wouldn't bring to an event?
Yeah. I mean, there's Trigons, there's Khorne Berserkers, there's one of the Custodes lists is a Terminator Captain, a boatload of custodians, and a single tank. It's just all of the custodians. I don't remember the last time I saw custodian infantry with this many models.
You mean there's more than 16?
6, 7, 8, 9. There's 11 infantry and 1 tank at 800 points.
At 800 points, yeah. I was going to say, actually, they probably won't make 16 at only 800
No, if they drop
points.
the tank, you would have.
Yeah.
But, there's still a whole bunch of stuff there that you just don't see. There's a Novak Dynasty. One of our patrons, Steve, is running, Destroyer Lord Immortals, Destroyers, Wraiths, Necron armies. Awesome. Simon Taylor, with a different, he's Mefrit, and he's using a Crypt deck, Necron Warriors, a Triarch, Praetorians, which no one ever uses.
Well, Simon does.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see how some of these things go, because there's just units here that you just don't see anymore. Yeah, there's another Necron list, again, Mefrit, but he's got a Catacomb Command Barge and Death Marks. So, again, different units. Now, the Necron book's pretty light on the ground when it comes to data sheets, and yet we've got 3 very different armies straight away. And I haven't found the other ones yet. So, it's quite exciting to have this sort of event with this sort of variety. I don't think there's any 2 armies that are the same.
So, we've got 82 players in the room. We're licensed to have 125 people in the room.
Oh, you went with the big license.
So we've got an additional 40 people who can come in and spectate at any one time. So if you happen to be passing, we're at Kelmscott Hall all day, Saturday the 18th of January.
Yep.
Kelmscott Hall, which is River Road in Kelmscott. Surprise, surprise. So pop in, say hello, check out some of the more unusual lists, or come check it out, really.
Yeah. We were hoping to have some streaming stuff working for the day. Unfortunately, the new laptop's not quite ready yet, so we're going to stream what we can.
I should be able to do it from mine. Mine seemed to work okay.
I have.
Time.
Oh, it's more the internet connection than anything else.
Yeah.
But we'll do our best to make sure there's some content coming to you if you can't make the event or if you're somewhere else in the world. But otherwise,
just not for the first 3 games.
Yeah, we might be. We'll see how we go. We'll definitely try and get the final game on the top table.
Yeah.
Played online so that we can share that. But they are going to be brutal, fast games. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, we'll take a break and we'll be back to wrap up the episode in just a second. I always love recording on school holidays. We get interruptions, we get dogs, we get all sorts of merry interruption. Like
kids have come in to show us the artwork that they've created while we're in the middle of recording, and
just add some extra for me to edit.
Yeah,
it'll be out before midnight. It'll still be a Wednesday release.
We're just not sure which time zone.
It would have been recorded sooner, but after the incident that happened to me on Friday.
Yeah, because for those of you who are following along with which part of Michael's broken this week, he decided to try and chop his toe off.
I didn't. For the record, that wasn't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. I didn't do it. Someone dropped a steel ramp from one of those really big skip bins onto my toe.
What shoes were you wearing, darling?
Ones that save my toes.
What shoes were you wearing?
Okay, when I say the word, it's going to sound bad. Sandals. But they had a big rubber...
No, but you were wearing sandals.
Better than thongs, better than trainers.
So due to that, he spent half the blooming week trying to work out what they're doing with his toe and lumping around looking like an extra out of a Tom and Jerry film. You know when they do something to Tom and he ends up with a massive big bandage on his toe and a walking stick? Well, you like that, but with no walking stick.
Which was funny because it was only It was 4 days prior that I got the all clear to stop wearing most of the braces and stuff.
It wasn't funny.
Day to day.
Trust me, it wasn't.
Well, no, it wasn't at the time.
Anyway, so due to that, we're recording Wednesday at 4:00, and you've got...
We're running a bit late.
Yeah, a few hours to get it
Well, that's
out.
it. I've still got to re-listen to the whole lot, so...
But luckily
couple of
we
hours.
wrote down
some
all
of the
tasks
issues,
that
yeah.
the kids have come in to chat. Okay, have we got anything else to talk about?
No,
I'm not sure if we've mentioned First Blood's happening this weekend.
Yeah, it's...
Saturday the 18th of January.
Yeah.
What time do we start?
Oh, God, early. It's an early day.
So we're getting there at 6 to start.
We are going to be there at 6.
If anybody happens to not have anything on at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, feel free to come and help us set up the room.
So first game is 8:15.
Okay, awesome.
Doors officially open at 7:45 for an 8 a.m. briefing.
Okay, so anybody who comes at 6 o'clock to help set up is fantastic. Okay, we've got an hour and a half, 15 minutes for player registration, then we start our briefing at 8.
Yep. Lunch, if you're interested in coming down and seeing the armies on parade, is 1:15 for 45 minutes. I'm assuming if you come for 1:30, you're probably safer for the armies on parade because it'll take everyone a bit to get themselves set up. And then we're due to be round 5 finished by 5:15 for a 5:30 awards, and then we'll be there for a couple of hours in the cleanup afterwards.
Yeah, so 5:15 to 5:30. Don't talk to Mark or I.
Yep. Mostly.
And then we're good from after that.
Well, 5:40 probably onwards. When we're doing all the pack up and
a raffle.
We'll probably do the same as we have been doing in the last couple, where we'll be raffling off a get started box of your choice or equivalent value.
That will be delivered to your home afterwards. So
yep.
You can choose
that way you can pick what you want and we can post it out to you. It's worked really well. The last player to win it was a good friend of ours, Richard, who never wins anything. It took him
5 years.
5 years. And I said, okay, which get started box do you want? And he ended up with a Repulsor Executioner because it was exactly the same price.
Ah.
He said, can I do that instead? I said, yeah, it's fine. So, yeah, it's the Get Started box or equivalent value.
Yeah.
So, if there's a particular model around that sort of $150 Australian dollar mark you're interested in, then let us know when you win, if you win.
Well, you contact people and...
Yeah, I do. I
sort
follow it up
that out.
afterwards anyway.
Yeah.
Got a good variety of prizes as well.
Mm.
I went and picked eclectic models from all of the factions, or as many of the factions as I could anyway.
Yeah.
So there is something there, and with the prize pool for the event is going to mean that we're going to present your medals in 3rd through 1st.
But then you pick your
But
prize first.
we're gonna have to wait until everyone's been awarded their categories, and then basically pull up the top one from each of the 4 categories, and then first gets first pick and so on. So it's going to be a bit convoluted, but it means that we've got boxes and blisters for a bunch of people to give away, and you get to pick.
Awesome.
If you win the category, you get to pick.
Unless you're the 12th person,
yeah, in which case you get
whatever's
left. Anyway, on that note, thank you very much for listening to us talk about First Blood. It's an event that really was inspired to try and get as many new people to bridge the gap and come along to take away some of the stigma that's rampant on the internet around tournament players, and show that you can have fun hobby events that are all about fun themed armies that are it's a good day out. It's not about coming out and smashing face and hardcore competition. It's about playing cool games against cool opponents with a bunch of prizes to give away at the end, and just to have fun.
Yeah.
And year on year, it's been a really successful event. There's been we sold out again this year. We sold out last year. We sold out the year before. So yeah, it's really positive that definitely, I feel at least, the community really enjoys the event, and we'll keep doing it as long as they keep enjoying it.
That's it.
Anyway, on that note, we're done. I'm going to start the editing process, I guess. That's going to be fun.
It's always fun.
Yeah, because you don't do it.
Exactly. All right. Yep. So as we said before, come and down, see us this weekend at First Blood. We'll be Facebook Living next Wednesday. Varsity's happening on Monday.
Yeah, Varsity's before the next live.
Yeah, so if you want to come and have a club night with beer and burgers, then you're at Varsity Morley Monday the 20th.
Yep, and all the dates...
7
till 11.
Yeah.
All the dates for Varsity for the whole year are on our Facebook page as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and that's open to people playing in any
game you want to play.
Game system. Ideally, organise a game before you get there, but otherwise just come down, hang out, and
we bring a bunch of terrain and boards. So yeah, you can come down and play games and have a cool cruisy night. Yeah,
we have Jason Stevenson has asked how many points do people normally play at Varsity.
That's a how long is a piece of string question.
Yep, that was pretty much where I was going with it. So. Work out who you're going to play with. Ask them.
Feel free to post in the event as well. Each of the events has got their own Facebook event page, so post in there and ask if anyone's up for a game, or if you know someone who's going to be there, get in touch with them, organise beforehand, and just come and grab a table and play.
Yep, perfect.
All right, we're done.
All right, happy gaming, everyone.
You've been listening to the Objective Secured podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, you can visit our website, objectivesecured.com.au. You can find us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Objective Secured, or you can email us, obsec@optusnet.com.au. Thanks for listening.